Hi VC, Dale Gatefold 33 back with another video, and this will be my Lost in the Collection video for October 2023. So in October here we kind of actually autumn kicked in. September had been quite hot, yeah, so I kind of put a bit of an autumnal theme on this, not entirely and not completely. Some of them are just records that I've picked. So so those of you who watch will know, but yeah, this is me going back and picking out records that I've not played for 5 years or more, and revisiting to try and keep my listening fresh by picking out different records from my collection. So let's get on with it. And first up is this album, the debut and I think only proper album. I know there was a Fotheringay 2, but this is Fotheringay. So Fotheringay was a band formed by Sandy Denny and was he a husband then? I think it was a husband then, Trevor Lucas. After Sandy Denny split from Fairport Convention, and while she was also putting out solo material. And yeah, really good album. So the Sandy Denny penned songs, The Sea, Winter Winds, Pond and Stream. There's some really great songs on here. Trevor Lucas also writes a few songs. There are a couple of covers, and yeah, Trevor Lucas sings on a couple as well, sings lead, but mostly it's Sandy Denny lead vocals, and her voice at this point is, you know, as strong as it ever would be. Fantastic vocal performances by one of the, if not the greatest English singer, or folk singer certainly, Sandy Denny. So yeah, and it's kind of got other kind of notable Jerry Donahue, Jerry Conway, Pat Donaldson, kind of notable musicians. And Jerry Donahue's, I think it plays lead guitar. There's some nice sort of subtle lead guitar flourishes going on throughout the album. So a good folk rock, English folk rock or British folk rock album, although Trevor Lucas is Australian. Okay, next up, I've got a few albums to revisit by this artist. Yeah, for some reason, I've got a lot of what he's done. Tom Waits. This is Blue Valentine from '78. So this album is probably, actually, I think it had more of a winter feel to it when I played it, but yeah, it's '78, so it's kind of Tom moving away from his more traditional singer-songwriter into his kind of, you know, barroom singer persona that he's adopted since then. But this maybe it was a kind of a bit of a transition album. But yeah, really good album. I mean, Tom can almost do no wrong for me. I think there's a little bit of a myth about the back cover. I don't know if it's a myth or not. I'm assuming it is. Doesn't really bother me, but yeah, Tom Waits was in a relationship with Ricky Lee Jones at the time, and apparently that's Tom and Ricky getting intimate, but I doubt that. So yeah, it's well, I've got some notes here, by the way, as normal, so I just might as well refer to them as I made them. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of mix of bluesy and jazzy songs. I mean, I think the highlight on side 2 is kind of the last 2 songs. Romeo is Bleeding into $29, but Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis is a great song as well. And yeah, kind of lots of sort of the seedy ballads that really put you in the, you know, Tom Waits manages to really put you in the moment, put you in the situation with his seedy ballads, you know, like Wrong Side of the Road, Open Side 2. So yeah, really enjoyed going back to that. Okay, back to a kind of folk for me. Folk is autumn. Nick Jones, Penguin Eggs. So this is Nick Jones's, I think it's his last album. Certainly it was an album just before he had a really horrific car accident, was very badly injured and took a long time to recover, and has never recovered sufficiently that he can, if you like, continue to perform. But yeah, I like Nick Jones. I've got a couple of albums that he did before this as well, but this is the album I kind of started with him. and sort of is kind of revered as his magnum opus, if you like. And it's, yeah, a lot of my folk records are British folk, be they Scottish, Irish, English, Welsh probably as well. This feels like it's got a much more feel of a trip around the world. It feels like there's stuff, you know, particularly like Canada and the US as well as the UK. So yeah, a very kind of worldly feel. And yeah, acoustic folk. Kind of Nick Jones has kind of got like his own unique guitar sound. I don't know. I'm not a musician at all, so I don't know if that's to do with the tunings or the style. But yeah, nice Sunday morning listen. But that's a different thread. Okay, next up, Bob Dylan and Street Legal, 1978. Same as Tom Waits' album, 1978. Yeah, so this is so obviously this followed Desire, which was, you know, highly regarded, and came just before the Christian phase in the 80s, which I do not kind of get on with at all, really. And it tends to therefore, I think, get overlooked and underappreciated. I really enjoy it. I mean, it's got quite a lot of production on it. It's probably got more production on it than perhaps a lot of Bob Dylan fans like, but I really enjoy it. And it starts with the Change of the Guard, which is one of those long, rolling Dylan tales that I really like when he does those types of songs. Baby Stop Crying is okay, goes on a little bit too long maybe, but it's a really good song. And Senor Tales of Yankee Power, again, is another one of those kind of meandering longer songs that I really enjoy. So yeah, I got a soft spot for this album. You know, I wouldn't say it's his best album or even a top 5 album for me, but I do have a soft spot for it. Okay, next up is Hawkwind and Hall of the Mountain Grill, from whenever it was from, 75 I want to say, maybe 74. 74. Yeah, this, you know, potentially my favourite studio album by Hawkwind, but you know, I'm not kind of set on that. I mean, there are 1 or 2 contenders certainly, or 2 or 3 contenders I can think of. So, but yeah, really good album. Side one, side one particularly, I think, is really strong. The first three songs really kind of just flow as a fantastic trilogy, if you like. Psychedelic Warlords into Wind of Change into D Rider is, you know, great. And on side 2 even, I think there's a kind of the intro sort of song Goat Willow into Paradox are great songs as well. So yeah, a really accessible Hawkwind album that I enjoy. Okay, let me flip my notes over. Not that I've been really referring to them. I don't know why I made these notes. I should refer to them because I played these records over the months, so I've probably forgotten what I wanted to say. Okay, more folk, back to folk. I didn't mean to do them alternate folk, but that's how it kind of played out when I played them. Tiernan and Oaks, their second album, A Tear and a Smile, from early 70s. 70, doesn't say anywhere, 72, on Chrysalis. So yeah, this, I mean, I've told the story many times of, you know, I've seen them recently several times, and they still put on a really good performance. So yeah, Leo O'Kelly and Sonny Condell, and this is a kind of real joint effort. This album, there's 10 songs, five written by Leo, 5 written by Sonny, 5 kind of 10. Sonny takes the lead and on his songs, and Leo on his, but they kind of also have a lovely harmony vocal style as well. So yeah, really strong album. I don't think it's quite as good for me as their first, but their first 3 albums are all really good. And Anything else I wanted to say? No? Okay. Next up, Time is a Mountain, and their second album called Two. I had their debut. So I was put onto these by someone in the VC. So I've been in the VC for about 12 years. I've only been making videos for about 3 or 4 years, but I've been in the VC in terms of watching and commenting on videos for 12 years. And someone who'd say no longer makes videos, that was certainly not for a long time. It was Anders in Stockholm, who is a jazz guitarist and sort of runs a label as well in Stockholm in Sweden. And he kind of showed the first Time as a Mountain album, and I bought that, and also the second. I think he's some involvement or knows the musicians, and it's kind of jazz fusion, jazz fusion, related to somebody in here who's part of the what they called. I would now refer to. I know the Fire Orchestra, which kind of is quite renowned. But yeah, it's a good instrumental jazz fusion, some keyboards going on, and I enjoyed it. So I got rid of the first one because that didn't quite, in the great purge of early 2023, it didn't make the cut. But this one, I thought I was be purging as well, but actually I enjoyed this more, so I'm keeping it for now anyway. Okay, next up. Now, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. There's no such thing as a guilty pleasure, but this is probably the nearest for me of a guilty pleasure, it feels. And I say that because I've been wanting to put this in the lot in the collection for a few months now. But when the weather was warm and the windows were open, I was embarrassed that someone walking by or my neighbours would hear me playing it, which must mean it's probably a guilty pleasure. So now the windows are firmly shut and it's autumn. I've felt confident enough to play it. So don't know what that says. This is an album that I had at the time in 1984. It is of its time, of 1984, and spawned 3 #1 singles in 1984. Can you guess what it is yet? But I would say was reluctant to go back to it. At the time, it blew my mind as a concept album, but now not so sure it does that. So, and it's Welcome to the Pleasure Dome by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. So I think they really were of their time. This was their time. They were massive in the UK. They had Relax that was banned by Radio 1, so obviously I was a teenager at the time, so but to me, said this blew my mind. I had a copy of it. I can't remember if someone taped it for me or I had a cassette of it, there were 3 #1 singles, so Relax, Two Tribes, and The Power of Love. Power of Love, as an aside, I think Frankie Goes to Hollywood had The Power of Love, and not long after, into the next year, Jennifer Rush had The Power of Love, and Huey Lewis and the News also had The Power of Love. So that confused everybody. If you went into a record shop and asked for The Power of Love, but get on with it now. Get back on message. Okay, get back on message. So let's read my notes. So this is, this is a double album that could have been a really good, not great, but a really good single album. As a double album, it's a little bit sprawling, and I think this is the, potentially if you give some fairly competent songwriters and musicians far too much money and far too much studio time and let Trevor Horn off the leash, this is what you end up with in 1984, when 1984 is decadence and excess of the 80s. This is what you end up with. And again, sorry. So this could have been, I think, if they'd done, and I did write it down, if they'd done World moving into Welcome to the Pleasure Zone with Relax, Two Tribes, San Jose, The Ballad of 32, Black Night, White Light, and potentially The Power of Love, you'd have had a pretty decent single album there. Some of the other stuff is either not the best covers in the world, but or a bit fillerish. But I really enjoyed playing it. The production, it's got 80s production, but it's got good production, and then the occasional 80s, just very 80s overproduction in it, but not throughout. So some of it sounds really good, really jumped out of the stereo, the speakers. What else do I want to say about this? I probably should have done a review of this rather than just put it in my Lost of the Collection. Another thing I'll say about it is, for me, when I listened to it in 1984 as a 17-year-old, also, I hadn't heard the songs that were covers. So I thought, what fantastic songs. So a bit like, I loved to tell the youth of today when they were saying, oh, Adele's Make You Feel My Love, what a brilliant song. So you do realise that was by Bob Dylan, don't you? Oh, what do you mean? It's not Adele's? No. Well, I didn't know. I'd never heard, I'm pretty sure I'd never heard Born to Run or San Jose or War before I listened to this version. So I just thought, oh, about Born to Run, that's a pretty good rocking song that they've come up with there. Now I feel that's not a brilliant cover of a decent song by Bruce Springsteen. So that's why I wouldn't have included it on a single album now, but back in the day I probably would. So anyway, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Welcome to the Pleasure Zone. Welcome. So next one, Goldfrap. And I'll probably now get my letter drumming me out of the VC for showing Frank Goes to Hollywood. But anyway, Goldfrap and Tales of Us. This, if you're in the right mood, if I'm in the right mood, is a almost perfect album. It's just got such a lovely mix, a delicate, melancholy, lush, orchestrated, cinematic style to it, and some beautiful songs. It's very restrained. Each track kind of, when I was listening to it, I was thinking, oh, that's a beautiful song. Then the next one, that's another beautiful song. And again. And I think, the song Stranger on side 2, is a very much like a Bond theme. So hence my kind of saying it's got a cinematic feel to it. However, it could, if you're not in the right mood, feel a little bit one-dimensional in its kind of pace. Certainly, potentially, its pace. It doesn't. It's quite one-paced. Lovely album, and highly recommended if you haven't heard it before. Okay, nearly there. See if I can get it under 20 minutes. I probably can't. So next up is the final album, is Opeth, continuing the kind of monochrome feel of some of these covers as well. Opeth and Damnation, from originally 2003. This is a 2012 Music on Vinyl reissue. So I really like Opeth. They kind of originally were sort of death metal, I think, with that growl, that throat growl singing voice Michael Ackerfeld had. Then there kind of was a transition period where he would also sing conventionally, but also do the death metal growl. And now they typically he only sings conventionally. I think he wasn't confident about his voice, but yet he's got a beautiful voice, particularly when they do rock ballads or ballads. I almost got a rock ballads. It sounds bad. This is a very delicate. This is almost I'll say a bit more in a minute. This is a delicate, beautiful, melancholy. I'll read my notes. Yeah, this kind of gets partnered with Deliverance that came before it. So Deliverance and Damnation, which I have a deluxe reissue triple album called Deliverance and Damnation. So they must have been, say, partners, the yin and the yang, or whatever it is. But this is the lush and beautiful, delicate album, whereas Deliverance is the death metal growl, and a very kind of heavy heavy album. This is not. It's got a lot of instrumental passages and tracks, and say Michael Ackerveld, beautiful voice, and some lovely guitar work, and even some keys. And I think it's got a very Pink Floyd feel to it in places. Yeah, beautiful album. So just over 20 minutes, sorry about that. So yeah, there's 10 records. Been hugely busy. I've been away all week. I've just come back. I'm taking part of Friday off, and I'm back up on Sunday for next week. So yeah, got a couple of weeks of really busy working away. So I'll try and get another video done over the weekend before I go up on Sunday. But yeah, I've got to do a finds video, I think. I've certainly got to do a couple of threads maybe. Okay, anyway, stop rambling down. Cheers, VC. Thanks. Bye.